Yesterday turned out to be just really step one of what is going to be a multi-month decision for Missouri Governor Mike Parson to figure out what exactly he can do to keep the Chiefs and Royals here in Missouri. I'm Pete Mundo. Good morning. It's great to be here on KCMO 95.7 FM. We are streaming, as always, as we kick off the show on the KCMO Talk Radio app. And there's a lot to get into after what has been just an incredible news cycle locally and obviously nationally as well. But Mike Parson, the governor of Missouri, was here yesterday, and he admitted that when it comes to talking to the Chiefs and the Royals, well, those conversations really have not taken place yet.
I'll be speaking to them at a time. We've been speaking to them all along. So we just need to get a plan in place. I think the big thing is I think we all realize there's going to be a separation between the Chiefs and the Royals, and we just got to move forward with that and see what the best plan is for each venue to be able to grow. So
there's going to be a separation between the Chiefs and the Royals, says the governor. He's right. For those of you still wishing, hoping, praying for the Royals to stay at Kauffman Stadium, it's not happening. That disappoints many of you. I know I think the K is a great place to watch a game, but if you're still living in that fantasy land, the governor put that to bed last night. So now, what is the play? What is the move? Well, he met yesterday with Clay County officials to explore the possibility of them going up north. Clay County officials, though, know that they don't have the tax base to get the Royals what they have requested when it comes to sales tax dollars to try to lure the teams up to North Kansas City. So they would need the state to play some kind of a role. What does that role look like? Who the heck knows? We are still in the very early stages of this, but the governor did come and make it very clear that he wants to help. So I think what he's doing right now is he's laying this foundation to basically say, when the time is right, I want to be able to help you guys out however I can. But he's got to wait for the primary process to figure itself out in the Missouri governor's race. And that's what makes this so fascinating from just, a political perspective, from a news perspective. It all wraps in the one. The sports guys are going to talk about this just from like a sports perspective, but politics play an enormous role here. And who wins the Republican primary in the Missouri governor's race is going to go a long way to figuring out what Mike Parson does over the next 6 months before he's out of office in January of 2025. If Mike Kehoe wins, that's his current lieutenant governor, who's been more open to providing help from the state level to sports teams. If he wins, then Parson probably can say through black channels to the teams, hey, listen, you got the right guy in there. He's willing to help. He's willing to maybe involve the state in this. Let's get to the legislative session when I'm gone, and you guys will figure some deal out. If it's not him, if it's a Bill Eigel, if it's Jay Ashcroft, who have both been on the record on this show of saying, we're not here to help sports teams, then Parson may try to do something on his own before he leaves in January. What that looks like and what that is, I don't know, because he can't just spend money on his own in the fall as governor. I mean, they have a legislative session for that runs January through May. The budget's set, the time is come and gone. So I'm not really clear on what he could do on his own if he wanted to, if he thought that Eigel or Ashcroft was going to be the next governor if one of those two guys win the primary. But this felt to me yesterday like more of an exploratory deal, and the teams were not part of it. He met with Frank White, the Jackson County executive, of course, who was taking the day off from coaching independent league baseball out there in KCK for the Monarchs. Nice of him to, I guess you probably had to find an off day for Frank, Governor of Missouri is working around Frank White's first base coaching schedule for independent league ball. I mean, what a world. So that was yesterday. And then he also met with Clay County officials. And Scott Wagner is one of those Clay County officials who is going to be on the show this morning coming up at 8:20 here on KCMO Talk Radio. So we wait and we see to watch how that plays out. Now at the national level, of course, everything is circled around Joe Biden and what is next for the president of the United States. If he's going to hang on to this nomination, if he is going to remain at the top of the ticket. Well, the pressure's on him in a big way. He's getting it from the media. He is getting it from his own party. And last night, Donald Trump had his first public comments about all this when he joined Sean Hannity. And when I listen to Donald Trump's clip here, what I'm hearing is Donald Trump wisely basically trying to bait Joe Biden to staying in the race because he knows as well as anybody he is best off facing Joe Biden coming up here in November.
You know, it looks to me like he may very well stay in. He's got an ego and he doesn't want to quit. He doesn't want to do that. It just looks to me like that's what he wants. I think Jill would like to see him stay. She's having a good time. I notice she really seems to be having a good time. And I'm hearing that Hunter is calling the shots. So this isn't necessarily a very positive thing for our country. But I think he, might very well stay in. And if he does, nobody wants to give that up that way. He's going to feel badly about himself for a long time. It's hard to give it up that way, the way where they're trying to force him out. So
nobody wants to give it up that way, says Donald Trump. Jill's enjoying herself, by the way. That's Trump's analysis of the First Lady, Jill. Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Jill Biden.
How dare you?
Sorry, I forgot to put the doctor in front there. So, my bad. But, what I thought was really smart of Trump last night, he's probably chomping at the bit to talk about this stuff, to do some media. So he calls in the Sean Hannity show last night. It is smart for Donald Trump to, if he's going to do this, just hop on the phone. Less is more for Donald Trump right now. For the first time in a very long time, the media and Democrats are fighting. Now, they're one and the same. They're in cahoots, but for the first time, they are fighting in a very long time. There is a circular firing squad going on here that I'll talk more about coming up in a few minutes. But Trump would be wise to kick his feet up, to sit back, and to watch and enjoy the show. Because for the last 8 years, give or take, he's been on the receiving end of these goobers. And now he's watching them eat their own. And he's sitting back. Hopefully he's enjoying some golf. Maybe he's got that handicap coming down, although he's not posting as many scores as he should be, as far as I can tell, based on some of the reporting from last week after their golf squabble on the debate stage. But I hope he's kicking back and he's just enjoying the show. That's all he needs to do. Don't become the show. When your enemy is destroying itself, political enemy in this case is destroying itself, just enjoy it. Just watch it. Don't get involved. And he's done a very good job of that. And, he goes on Hannity last night, but it's not official. There's no cameras. He's just on the phone, probably from wherever he is in Mar-a-Lago. And that's good. That's fine. Less is more. Less of seeing Donald Trump is better for him right now. I know his ego probably doesn't like hearing that, but that's the truth. Let Joe Biden sink himself, because that's what you are seeing play out right now in real time. And I didn't know if Trump would be able to handle it the way he has, but to his credit, he's done a damn good job stepping back and letting this thing unfold in a very positive way for his campaign. So what does that circular firing squad sound like right now? Well, man, it was on full display yesterday. We have the audio we will play for you coming up next on KCMO 95.7 FM. We are streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. There is something that is really enjoyable about watching media treat Democratic politicians the same way they treat Republican politicians. For too long, really all of my lifetime, certainly since I've been doing this, the most infuriating part of the mainstream media is not the way that they necessarily treat Republicans. They grill them, they grind them. Everything Donald Trump ever tweeted, every Republican had to have an answer to, every Republican had to have an opinion on, right? I didn't even necessarily hate that. It was just the massive double standard that existed in the way that they were always unable to treat Democrats the same way they treat Republicans until like the last 10 days. Part of what's going on here is, yes, they want Biden out because they don't think he can win and they don't want Donald Trump to win. And, that's their political bias and leaning showing, fine. But also, I think for a lot of them, they realize they look like a horse's rear end. They realize that for a media establishment that has not done a good job being honest with the American people about the physical condition of the president of the United States, which for those of us who followed this stuff on a daily basis saw with our own two eyes, but they kind of swept under the rug. They realized that in many respects, Joe Biden in that debate 2 weeks ago made them look terrible because they provided cover for so long on this stuff. So now they're magically doing their jobs, but in part it's self-preservation mode is what it is as much as anything else. Not that they have a lot of credibility left, but whatever is left, they're trying to hang on to. So this report dropped in the media. New York Times had it first, I believe, here in the last couple of days. And that is a story that an expert on Parkinson's disease from the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center visited the White House 8 times in 8 months from last summer through this spring, including at least once for a meeting with Joe Biden's physician, according to official visitor logs. The expert, Dr. Kevin Kennard, is a neurologist who specializes in movement disorders and recently published a paper on Parkinson's. The logs released by the White House document visits from July of 23 through March of this year. More recent visits, if there have been any, would not be released until later under the White House's voluntary disclosure policy. So that dropped in the New York Times yesterday morning, and that became a massive story, especially during the White House press briefing with Karine Jean-Pierre, when reporters were all over her about this, looking for answers, and Karine was not having any of it.
It's a very basic, direct question.
Wait. Hold on. Wait a second.
Eight times, or at least once, in regards to the president specifically.
Hold on a second.
Not what you should be able to answer by this point.
Wait, no. No, wait a minute. Ed, please. A little respect here, please.
Oh!
So every year, around the president's physical examination, he sees a neurologist. That's 3 times, right? So I am telling you that he has seen a neurologist 3 times while he has been in this presidency. That's what I'm saying. I am telling you that he has seen them 3 times. That is what I'm sharing with you, right? So every time he has a physical, he has had to see a neurologist.
A little respect here, Ed, says Karine Jean-Pierre. See, they don't know what to do when they're actually being treated as they should. When they're actually being grilled in the way that they should by their media, man, they don't like it. Show me some respect. Why? I mean, yeah, we should respect everybody. I agree with that. But asking somebody a pointed question and demanding an answer when the American people deserve to know the physical health status of the leader of the free world is not being disrespectful. It's just trying to get you to give a straight answer. Because finally, all of America and all the world saw what it saw 2 weeks ago and came to the obvious conclusion of, I'm pretty confident this guy ain't up for the job.
Hey, Kareem, could you do your job? Hey, show me some respect.
Yeah.
Right? Is that the answer?
That's really what it was.
Could you do your job? Hey, whoa, back off.
Yeah. Can you do your job and answer the question for me? Show some respect, young man.
Right.
Like, that's not how this works. You show us some respect as the American public because you've been gaslighting us for years now. You've been gaslighting us with this nonsense. It was just a week before the debate. Any videos of Joe Biden that we saw with our own 2 eyes were cheap fakes or deep fakes. I mean, is the phrase cheap fakes one of the great political blunders of all time? We were told if, you saw Joe Biden doing goofy things, if you questioned his mental and physical capacity, you were involved in cheap fakes and deep fakes. And then days later, The guy got up on the stage in front of the American public and was completely befuddled, for lack of a better word. Had no idea what to say. We beat Medicare. He didn't know up from down and left from right. And now you want to tell us about how we've got to show you respect? No. You showed the American people some respect. You show us some respect. Because let's not forget, these politicians work for us. We don't work for them. And that's across the political aisle, I will add as well, by the way. 913-4087-95.7. Let's go to Brandon. Brandon, what's up, buddy? Let's go, Brandon. How are you?
Is that me?
Yes, that's you. If you're Brandon.
I'm Randy, not Brandon.
That's all right, Randy. Let it rip, big fella.
No, hey, what I was going to say is that what they're doing is there's a master of illusion, which is politics. These people have gone into master of delusion because she said, well, he does not have Parkinson's. He does not have Parkinson's. He might have Ebola or a brain tumor, but he doesn't have Parkinson's. And so what they're doing is they're throwing everybody off. It's like the Bill Clinton thing. I did not have sex with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. and it's the game that they play. The problem with it is that at some point in time, the press's credibility is absolutely toast. And Kareem Jean-Pierre, I don't know what to say about that other than the fact that a person that demands respect without giving any is a hypocrite beyond hypocrisy. We're going to have to redefine some words like the woke people when it comes to hypocrisy and irony.
Yeah, well, that's well said. Randy, Brandon, whatever you want to call yourself, good job there, man. Thanks so much. No, you're right. When it comes to respect, it's got to be a two-way street. There's no doubt about it. And it is more than reasonable, based on what all of America saw a week and a half ago, to have more questions and to demand more answers. Because the guy, no matter what, he's still in the White House for the next 6 months, at least. And there's a lot that can happen on the world stage in the next 6 months. Speaking of Joe Biden, all the conversations around Jill Biden right now are circulating. Why is she doing this? How does she potentially, involve herself? She had 3 events around the Southeast yesterday. Is she enjoying this power, this de facto, presidential campaign that now she is running, essentially? What does this mean? Well, people are not going to go to the polls thinking about Jill Biden. They're going to think about the state of the president. And this puts the media in a very difficult spot because, of course, we all saw what we saw with our own 2 eyes 10, 11 days ago at the debate. And now you've got the media. You've got 2 factions of media. There's guys like Jake Tapper who did the debate, and Jake Tapper is actually saying what needs to be said. How does this guy go on? Jake Tapper is trying to maintain whatever credibility he's got left. And then you have people like Whoopi Goldberg. Amazingly, this show is still on the air with The View, and talking about how if Biden was pooping himself, she'd still vote for him.
I don't care if he's pooped his pants. I don't care if he can't put a sentence together. Show me he can't do the job. And then I'll say, okay, maybe it's time to go. Now,
okay, wait. Can we just stop right there? She goes, if Biden's pooping his pants and can't talk, I'll still vote for him because I need proof that he can't do the job. If you can't talk, if you cannot speak, and if you poop your pants, I don't think you can do the job as the leader of the free world. Call me crazy. Call me out of line. Call that, overtly partisan. But if you're pooping your pants and you can't speak, that means you can't do the job, Whoopi. That's what it means, John.
I like to amuse myself, and I reverse the scenario, and I say, what if we played the leftist thing? So, in other words, if you support Trump, you then must personally subscribe to everything he thinks. So what does that say about Whoopi?
Oh, man, that's so good. But this is just all out, full blown embarrassment from Whoopi Goldberg, and I'm just here for it.
He had a bad night the first time that he went out and debated with Kamala Harris. And everybody wanted him to quit that and say, you can't talk to women like this, or you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. He came back, said, you know what, I got it, and gave 4 years. So, yeah, I have poopy days all the time.
Whoa.
All the time. I step in so much poo you can't even imagine. Now, I'm not running the world.
Thank goodness.
But I don't know anybody who doesn't step in stuff at some point. So I'm just simply saying there are 2 debates. And if he can't do what he needs to do for the second debate, I'll join any crew that says get rid of him. But loyalty to me, if you are doing the job, I might not like everything you're doing. I don't like it all. But I'm going to stand behind you like those guys stand behind the guy who should have been the person people were talking about saying, yeah, Biden had a bad day, but this guy couldn't tell the truth if it split his lip.
Here's the problem for Whoopi Goldberg and Joe Biden. The problem is not that he just may be pooping his pants, as she alluded to there. The problem is he can't spell poop. That's the problem. Okay? And Whoopi Goldberg admitting that she would vote for a person who poops their pants and can't speak tells you all you need to know, John.
It does.
It is just, and let me, before we get to the news here, speaking of Whoopi Goldberg, pooping herself, let me play this throwback from when Whoopi Goldberg famously said that Jill Biden should be the Surgeon General because she's a doctor.
Dr. Jill becomes a Surgeon General. His wife.
Yeah,
Joe Biden's wife, because he would never do it, but she's a hell of a doctor. She's an amazing doctor.
I thought she was a doctor and
PhD.
Yeah, I
could be wrong.
I think she's a teacher, but
But she could teach surgery.
Listen to her colleagues being like, no, not quite. So I guess Whoopi knows a thing or two about pooping yourself. That's all I can read out of that. All right, Jackson County. We told you about this just after Father's Day weekend. I mean, really embarrassing, disastrous situation where a guy named David Martin running for state senate, is written about in the Kansas City Star, found himself facing allegations he assaulted the vice chair of the Jackson County Republican Party during a dispute over an overflowing toilet. So Martin held a Father's Day event at the Jackson County GOP headquarters during Father's Day weekend. And then Blue Springs police were called out at about 3 o'clock. They issued this guy, David Martin, who's running in a state senate race, a citation because he is allegedly the offender on a charge of a simple assault. So this whole thing stemmed back to a clogged toilet at the headquarters and trying to figure out who clogged it, who was going to clean it up, and who was going to pay for the cleanup. So David Martin goes on a show yesterday with our buddy Scott Fawn of the Missouri Times. He does a daily webcast on social media that you can watch. And he asked David Martin the very simple question, who is to blame for clogging the toilet?
Are we going to name the person that clogged the toilet, or is that going to be a secret under just the police investigation?
Well, if one of my people did it, they sure haven't spoke up about it. That's for sure. And
that's the kind of thing you probably wouldn't.
What really gets me about it is
Flat Dog clogged ours up one day, but we all know it.
So anyway.
That's the laugh of somebody who knows who clogged the toilet, first off. That is an awkward, nervous laughter of somebody who knows the answer on who clogged the toilet. That resulted in this alleged assault and the police coming out to the Jackson County GOP headquarters. But it gets even better. Scott Fawn's interview with this state Senate candidate, David Martin, because this guy Martin, he is all over the map in terms of his reasoning for why he got into a beef with county leadership that day over this clogged toilet that resulted in the cops being called out there in Blue Springs. He's just talking himself in circles and really not making a lot of sense.
Judy had mentioned it to me, and I said, don't worry about it. I'll get it taken care of, right? Even though, I don't know how it happened. while I was there were people who came in the office. They didn't even attend my event. We were in the parking lot. So, people went inside and left. It could have been one of them. Yeah, okay. I think it could have been one of them. Yeah, very possible.
Wait. So hold on. So he is now alleging that he's hosting this event at the GOP headquarters out there in Eastern Jack, and random people just showed up to use the Jackson County GOP bathroom, and it could have been one of them who allegedly clogged this toilet. That doesn't make sense. This is not Walmart. It's a small little operation that is rented out by the county party. And he's suggesting that random people just showed up because they had to go to the bathroom? What is that?
It plays like John Lovitz's character Tommy Flanagan on Saturday Night Live. It's like, there were some other people. Yeah, the other people. And they did it. Yeah, that's the ticket.
So right out of the gates, I mean, nothing's making sense here.
Could David have done it?
Well, listen, he said earlier, I watched the entire interview, there were not a lot of people at his event at all.
And they started, what got me was Teresa comes in, she's trying to get me to pay for cleanup, and I didn't feel it was my responsibility, and I got a little upset about it. I went outside. I didn't tell her I was upset. I went outside, and I said, guys, we're packing up, we're leaving. We're getting out of here.
Right? You did clean up the mess, right? The mess from the overload, you plunge it and all that, right?
I didn't know because the cops were, I did. I went over there to plunge it, but you know what? The toilet flushed right down. So I don't know how the water even got there. It was weird to me.
But I mean, it's your event. You were going to clean up the mess, right? If somebody would have spilled ketchup, he was going to clean that up.
Yeah,
right?
I had agreed. I felt like, I said, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. I was going to clean it up, get it all cleaned up. And I felt like they blew it all out of proportion because when they come outside, we're taking the tent, our canopy down.
Neighbor.
Somebody blew it all out of proportion. I don't know who.
And everything.
You borrowed the space. You were going to leave it like you found it.
Correct.
And you were going to clean it up and leave it like you found it, right?
Right.
Well, no.
Right.
No.
That was my intent. I felt like, I used the space. I told Judy in the beginning, I said, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. But then they came in and started telling me who I'm going to hire, how it's going to get cleaned up, and I didn't appreciate it. So, and I went outside and I said, well, we're packing up. We're getting out of here.
A minute ago, the guy said he didn't feel like it was his responsibility. And then at the end of the clip, this guy, David Martin, who holds this event that results in a clogged toilet at Jackson County GOP headquarters, says, I was going to clean it up. I don't know, man. I'm not believing that guy as far as I can throw him, just based on that 2-minute clip. And maybe he's the clogger. Who knows? It sounds like we'll never know. Although we'll have to get to the bottom of that police report, it sounds like. That's going to be next year on KCMO. Send investigative journalist Mark Van Sickle on it. Man, the rough stretch really does continue in the West Wing. And yesterday, I mean, it was a pretty wild press conference for Karine Jean-Pierre. And it's kind of nice to just sit back and, I have like 2 cigars a year, but yesterday might have been one of those 2 I should have had as I was watching the White House press briefing and watching these people eat their own. It was pretty enjoyable. If you missed it, here's what it sounded like between Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, and some in the media when they were finally coming around to figuring out, wait, what's going on here with this report from the New York Times that the Parkinson's doctor has made several visits to the White House over the last few months. Came from the New York Times, and there were 8 visits in 8 months. And naturally, an honest, decent press is suddenly looking for answers, and Karine Jean-Pierre is very offended by it, by the way.
It's a very basic, direct question.
Wait. Hold on. Wait a second.
8 times, or at least once, in regards to the president specifically.
Hold on a second.
Not what you should be able to answer by this point.
Wait, no. No, wait a minute. Ed, please. A little respect here, please.
Ed.
So every year, around the president's physical examination, he sees a neurologist. That's 3 times, right? So I am telling you that he has seen a neurologist 3 times while he has been in this presidency. That's what I'm saying. I am telling you that he has seen them 3 times. That is what I'm sharing with you, right? So every time he has a physical, he has had to see a neurologist.
Okay. So that was just part of the testy back and forth between the White House and the media yesterday during the briefing. And then this dropped at about 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock our time last night. And it is a letter, a memorandum from Karine Jean-Pierre, from Kevin O'Connor, the physician to the president. And they're trying to clarify some of this news, like this story from the New York Times, that a Parkinson's expert has visited the White House 8 times in 8 months. And the letter reads as follows. To protect patient privacy for the thousands of patients of the White House Medical Unit and the physicians who treat them, normally we do not disclose names of the specialists we work with. However, in the interest of accuracy, I have obtained permission from the president and Dr. Kevin Kennard to confirm the details I am sharing, writes Kevin O'Connor, physician to Joe Biden. Dr. Kennard has been the neurology consultant to the White House Medical Unit since 2012. He was chosen for his breadth of experience and expertise across the specialty of neurology. All right, they go on to read this guy's resume off. As I have written in each of the president's medical reports, as part of the president's annual physical, he sees a team of specialists that have included optometry, dentistry. Want to make sure Joe's veneers are looking good and, in solid shape. Orthopedics, physical therapy, neurology, sleep medicine, cardiology, radiology, dermatology. Dr. Kennard was, now I know why the budget's so damn big. You got to pay for all the damn doctors now who have to spend their time in the White House. Keep putting a bunch of geriatrics in there. This is what you get. Dr. Kennard was the neurological specialist that examined Joe Biden for each of his annual physicals. His findings have been made public each time I have released the result of the president's annual physical. Joe Biden has not seen a neurologist outside of his annual physical. The results of this year's exam were detailed in my February 28th letter. An extremely detailed neurological exam was again reassuring in that there were no findings which would be consistent with any neurological disorder, such as stroke, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, or ascending lateral sclerosis, nor are there any signs of cervical myopathy. This exam did again support a finding of peripheral neuropathy in both feet. No motor weaknesses was detected. Blah, blah, blah. Joe Biden's fine. Don't believe your lying eyes. Seeing patients at the White House is something Dr. Kennard has been doing for 12 years. Dr. Kennard was chosen for this responsibility not because he is a movement disorder specialist, but because he is highly trained and highly regarded neurologist here at Walter Reed and across the military health system. And with a very wide expertise, this makes him flexible to see a variety of patients and problems. Okay, so that is a letter that was put out last night at about 9 o'clock from the White House explaining the report from the New York Times that a Parkinson's expert visited the White House 8 times in 8 months. See, it's all meaningless to me. It's a bunch of nice words, a bunch of fancy words. It doesn't change the broader problem. It's like the last caller on Tirade Tuesday was saying, if you're explaining in politics, you're losing. And explaining whether it's this report, whether it's anything else, if you're explaining, you're losing. And Joe Biden is losing in part because him and his people are explaining. It's like we will never unsee what we saw with our own 2 eyes 10 days ago. And it really hasn't gotten any better since then. I mean, whether it was Friday or I guess Thursday, Independence Day. I mean,
ho, ho, ho! Happy Independence Day.
Whether it was that, whether it was what happened on Morning Joe yesterday.
Nobody said anything except me and the folks out there in the local, race. He said, I did nothing to stop Russia's invasion of Ukraine. In fact, he said, I think I encouraged Russia from going. I think he encouraged Russia going in. I'm reading from the list of lies. First of all, he was made-up quote, suckers and losers. I was with it. He called the Americans in the cemeteries from World War I suckers and losers. And so this guy's going to have to start to answer for what he did. I'm not letting...
None of this makes any sense. I don't care what some medical doctor says. And by the way, the Parkinson's thing, I don't know. I mean, I don't see a guy shaking. I'm more worried about his brain than I am whether or not he's shaking. I don't see a lot of shaking. I'm not a doctor, unlike Dr. Jill. I just see what I see with my own two eyes, and none of it's good for the American people, and they're not buying it.